Hello, everybody. I glad to see you here today. I'm waiting for everything just to kind of load up a little bit. Cloud Hub, waiting for Cloud Hub, waiting a little bit for Rumble. Rumble kind of takes its own time. Good to see everybody on Cloud Hub. Just know if you're texting me or trying to comment during the show, typically I don't see the comments until after the show. But if you would please go ahead and share the show with everyone, let them know that we're here. As you know, this is a health and wellness show. Um, I I kind of switched what I was doing before, and that was kind of news and politics. And when you do that for so long, you find out that there are other things that really need to be talked about. Hey, Curtis, good to see you. Other things that can be very helpful to you. And actually, the news and politics, listening to that all the time can be more of a detriment to you than a benefit. Hey, Deb, good to see you. Um, so, I want to talk about something today that a lot of people like, and a lot of people kind of have questions about, wondering about. Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? How much should I eat? Should I eat it at all? That type of thing. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about red meat. Now, there's some things that I'm going to talk about today that and there are some things that I'm going to talk about today that you're going to go, "What? I didn't know that." So let's get started on this. Happy Taco Tuesday. Oh, yeah, gosh. All right. So let's take a closer look at red meat. Red meat is something that it's a nice cut of meat, right? That a lot of people really, really like. Who doesn't like red meat? I mean, there are a few people who don't like red meat. I'm probably one of those. I used to eat meat, not a lot of red meat, but I would eat red meat. I don't typically eat so much red meat anymore. I don't know why it just doesn't appeal to me like it used to. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other people who really enjoy that. Now, what is red meat? Red meat refers to beef, veal, lamb, mutton, pork, goat, and venison. All right, so we all know. I don't know how many people. I'm not a veal person, not a lamb person, not a mutton, pork, goat, or venison. So, but there are people who really enjoy that as well. Now, if you have any questions while I'm going through this, just let me know. If I need to go back and discuss something, let me know. There's no problem. I'll see the responses in the chat, especially if you're on YouTube, sometimes on Cloud Hub, sometimes on Rumble, but it's a gamble. All right. Now, what is not red meat? Red meat is not chicken, turkey, goose, duck, game, and rabbit. Processed meat refers to any meat that has been preserved by smoking, curing, salting, or using preservatives. And we kind of talked about that last week about how processed foods are really bad for you. And if you missed that, go back and look at last week's show to get more information about processed meats and other things that we talked about. Now, is red meat unhealthy? We hear that a lot. Don't eat red meat. It's very, very unhealthy for you. You should never have red meat. A lot of people say, and you have the left wingers that go off crazy of, oh, let's get rid of all red meat. Let's eat garbage instead. Well, no. Typically, this is from the Harvard Education. Dr. Hu, I believe, wrote this article, or they interviewed him. Said an accumulated body of evidence shows a clear link between high intake of red and processed meats and a higher risk for heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and premature death. The evidence is consistent across different studies. And so, again, you have to look there at the word high intake. So, a lot of people would have you believe that if you eat red meat at all, you're going to have a higher risk for heart disease, cancer, diabetes, premature death. But you have to take into consideration there are other factors that can cause that as well. And then you add on top of that a high intake of red and processed meats, and then you're probably putting yourself in trouble. Now, how often should you eat red meat? According to the Cleveland Clinic, try to limit your red meat consumption to 1 to 2 servings per week, which is 6 ounces or less per week. If you have heart disease or high cholesterol, the recommendation is to limit red meat to less than or equal to 3 ounces per meat. Now, I know for some of you, even just saying that, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I can't do that. In fact, I know somebody that probably has red meat every day and sometimes for 2 to 3 meals per day. I would say that's, based upon the studies that we're seeing and the opinion from the clinics, that's way too much. But, if that's something that you want to do, then that's what you're going to do. And the consequences will or won't come with it. So, what is the healthiest red meat to eat? Choose lean options of pork, such as a pork loin, tenderloin, and center cut chops. Cut any visible fat off the pork and avoid items such as sausage or bacon. So, in other words, just avoid the good stuff, okay? Because I'm going to eat pork, it's going to be sausage or bacon, right? I don't eat either now, lot because of my change in my diet plan. I don't eat it, but I fell out of love with pork and red meat a long time ago for just various reasons. Probably just taste buds changing. I don't know. But there are a lot of people who love pork, and if you're going to eat pork, you know, just according to this Cleveland clinic, you should avoid the sausage and bacon. Really good stuff. All right. Now, steak. Choose leaner cuts of steak, such as flank, round, sirloin, tenderloin, and ball tip. These cuts will usually have less calories and fat and more protein than some of the other options. Cut any visible fat off the steak. Now, I know there are a lot of people that leave the fat on and actually chew the fat. I'm not sure why. It seems pretty gross to me, but there are a lot of people who love that. They're saying here, cut any visible fat off the steak. It will be healthier for you. Also, a variety of meats are available ground, such as, and I don't know about you. I could not eat chicken ground, but that's just me. Chicken, turkey, pork, and beef. Read the labels and select meats that are at least 90% lean meat, no more than 10% fat. You'll see some, red meat that it'll say 85% fat, and they're saying that's not really good. That is still too high in the fat content. All right. Benefits to eating red meat. Red meat, such as beef, lamb, and pork, is a good source of protein, vitamins, and minerals and can form part of a balanced diet. But eating a lot of red meat and processed meat increases your risk of bowel or colorectal cancer. And again, we're talking about typically, the studies are saying, if it's a high amount of meat that you're getting and taking an intake of a lot of meat and red meat and a lot of processed meat. Another opinion. Are there any health benefits of red meat? Red meat actually has many vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients that your body needs. So they're kind of confirming that. Red meat can be a good source of protein, B vitamins, iron, and zinc. But the curve lies in what type of red meat you're eating and how often is where the issue comes in. That's where you look at and say, is it a high intake? Yeah, venison. Ugh. My husband tried elk the other day. I notice I said husband tried elk, not me. I am not a meat eater. Okay, so are there any benefits of not eating red meat? A plant-based diet that includes lots of fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, and nuts is ideal, like the Mediterranean diet. That's what I'm on, which also includes fish and other white meats. People who don't eat red meat or are greatly limited generally consume fewer calories, less fat, and have a lower risk of heart disease and death. And again, I am pushing the Mediterranean food plan because that is what has worked so well for me. Don't know if it'll work well for you, but it has been the reason I've lost almost 30 pounds and kept it off for over a year now. I feel so much better. Blood pressure is decreased. No pre diabetes. no high cholesterol, on and on. So there's been a great benefit to me in not eating the red meat and having more of the Mediterranean diet. Although, remember, on the Mediterranean diet, you can have red meat. They just want you to limit it. Now, there are 5 things you can do if you wanna cut back on eating red meat. So, if you've decided, I eat too much red meat, I should really cut back, here's how they say that you should do it. This is from the same, Cleveland Clinic. Embrace Meatless Monday. If you currently eat meat daily, choose 1 day per week to cook a vegetarian meal. There's a national movement to eat vegetarian on Mondays, but if another day works for your family, choose that day instead. Moderation is key, Curtis. It always is. And we seem to forget that, right? A lot of times I know there are a lot of people probably who eat the same things every day and they're comfortable with that. It's almost like in eating the same foods every day, it's comfort food, or it's like maybe and I'm one of those people that sometimes tends to eat some similar foods on a daily basis. I think sometimes I get lazy and I don't want to come up with something new. Although there's tons of things out there that I love, even those things that I love, I'm like, do I really want to make that today? And it's so easy. It's nothing that's hard. It's just that for the longest time, we as a United States, especially, I think, we're used to putting everything in a microwave, and we just want to have something quick. And whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it fills us up, and we're ready to go. Eating out of the microwave, heating things up, eating those type of foods, you typically have a lot of sodium in them that's not good for you. And so sometimes stopping to make something on the stove, I know that's a concept that we're not too used to anymore, but that it's better for you health wise. But you can make a lot of salads too, and we've talked about those salads. My gosh, and the Greek salads that are so good with the cucumbers and the tomatoes and the chickpeas, and oh my gosh, on and on. You could add chicken to that. It's so tasty. There's a restaurant that my husband and I go to. It's called the Kava Grill, Cava, and it is Greek food. And I always get the Greek salad with the chicken. And oh my gosh, it is so tasty and so good for you. And just, I mean, I enjoy it so much more than I would any other meal sometimes. So there's so many things that you can get that are quick and easy. You just have to sometimes put a little effort in it, and it'll change the way your whole life is for the better, I should add. All right, now try vegetarian tapas. Many people find planning a vegetarian meal intimidating if they're accustomed to eating a dinner with the main dish of meat. To ease into a vegetarian meal, try making 3 to 4 side dishes and serve them family style. You can let each member of the family pick a dish to try to turn it into a meal. Now, I want to ask those who don't have children, do you still sit down and eat like a full meal? Like when you eat something, do you have your vegetable, your meat, your salad, your dessert, all of four food groups at least, right? I mean, do you do that? Or do you just say, okay, tonight we're gonna have like a pasta dish. We're not gonna have anything else with it. What do you do? I know for my husband and I, since we don't have kids, we just eat whatever we want to. And in fact, here's what I do sometimes. I know this will freak some people out, but if I've had breakfast and lunch, and if I feel like I've eaten too much or I just don't feel that hungry, sometimes I will have for dinner a breakfast bar, usually Paleo Valley breakfast bar, superfood bar. They have some pumpkin out right now, which is absolutely great. These bars are about 190 calories and they have protein in them and other great types of seeds and things like that in them. So I'll have that with an apple and some almonds, and that fills me up. I don't know if that would be for everybody, but I'm just saying those people maybe who don't have kids and don't have to plan meals for everybody, maybe that is something that you would want to do or consider. It will help lower your calorie intake if that's something that you want to do, and you'll be full and without even fixing anything for yourself that you have to cook or anything else. I don't know, Curtis and Deb, and others. What are you thinking about something like that? Does that appeal to you at all? They're tasty, I can tell you that. I've had them and they are tasty. All right, now you could start cooking with seafood. I'm not a seafood eater. There are a lot of people who love seafood, and it's also on the Mediterranean food plan. Start cooking with seafood, cook fish or other seafood one night per week. Use either fresh, frozen, or canned and add it to your weekly menu rotation. And for those who love seafood, I mean, there are people who could just eat seafood all of the time. Now, swap red for white. When cooking your favorite recipes that call for ground meat, reach for ground turkey or chicken instead. These white meat options work great in dishes such as tacos and chili. Now, I know, Curtis, that you were saying this is Taco Tuesday, which it absolutely is. I do love tacos if you're having the turkey in it as a replacement instead of, let's say, red meat or even chicken in some instances. And for me, it doesn't make a difference. I don't feel like I'm missing anything when I have turkey instead of red meat. Other people may think, "Oh, that's just so disgusting. I could never do that." But it really is something that you maybe should try. And you can put a few more spices in there if that's something that would help you feel more like you're having real meat. Now, put veggies on display. Don't try to replace red meat with imitation meat products like veggie dogs, which sometimes can be pretty gross. Instead, embrace the vegetables for what they are. Focus on choosing recipes that highlight vegetables rather than hiding them. And again, in the Mediterranean food plan, you're going to find a lot of those. If you want vegetable dishes, there's tons of them. If you want fish dishes, there are tons of them. If you want things with shrimp, rather than just like the regular fish, you can get shrimp. You can also find, like I said, red meat dishes as well. Now, is here's the thing that you may not know, and this is something that I don't like when I read this. Is all meat labeled in the US actually all from the US? We get those labels on there, USDA inspected. We feel that all this meat that we're getting, unless it says something different, is something that came right from the United States. Well, is that true? Well, I don't know. Not from what I'm finding. As directed by the United States Congress, this happened in February 2016, a final rule that amends the country of origin labeling. That's where the meat comes from. The regulations by removing the requirements, okay, for muscle cuts of beef and pork and ground beef and pork. Okay, read that again. What that is saying there is that I'll call it the cool requirements. It says that repealing the cool requirements. These were some that were in effect in 2015, and immediately after the legislation was passed, the USDA stopped enforcing. Go to the next slide. The cool forcing the act. The cool is a labeling law that, for marketing purposes, requires retailers to provide their customers with information regarding the country of origin of regulated commodities. AMS is responsible for the administration and enforcement of cool regulations. Under this rule, beef and pork muscle cuts and ground beef and pork are removed from the list of covered commodities subject to the cool regulation. Retailers are no longer required to provide this information for beef and pork at the point of sale. Cool regulatory requirements for chicken, lamb, goat, farm raised and wild caught fish and shellfish, perishable agricultural commodities, peanuts, pecans, macadamia nuts, and ginseng are still in effect. So read that again. That is saying that on beef and your pork muscle cuts and ground beef and pork are removed from that list, and they no longer have to tell you the country of origin. And this says your meat might be coming from a whole different country. Yes, your grocery store meat might be racking in the miles before getting to you when purchasing from the store. It is vital that you look for the label on the meat and read where its country of origin is. A lot of foreign meats are shipped to slaughterhouses within the United States, which then allow businesses to package as the product it, being from America when the actual meat itself did not come from America. I don't like that. I don't know about you, but I don't like that. It says, in reality, the cows you're buying from did not originate here, meaning consumers have no idea how the animals were treated, fed, and cared for, all variables which influence how the meat actually tastes. And also, I would add if it's good for you or not, and what, what's in it, that the animals were fed may not be good for you. Additionally, quality standards vary between countries, which adds in an extra unsettling element of mystery. Now, I saw in doing this research that we get food from everywhere. We get meat from Australia. It did say before we got meat from China. I don't know if we're still getting meat from China. I know that it said that we are getting meat from other countries as well, and we get a lot of it. So, what can we do about this? Well, your meat might be injected with synthetic red dye as well. Let me just add that. Did you also know that the store bought beef is sometimes injected with red dye so it appears pink and fresh? Some stores have even been caught fusing ice into the meat to increase its volume of water weight, which jacks up the price. So you have to pay more. Is that happening here? I don't know. I don't know. Also, what about the meat that has been injected with other things? Currently, I'm not going to read this because of the other platforms that I'm on, but there are no current jabs of this nature licensed for use in beef cattle in the United States as of June 7, 2023. I don't know if we're headed towards it. We really are. We're headed towards that in your salads as well, unless it's stopped. I know myself, having done the research at the University of Riverside in California, that they were trying to figure out how to put this type of jab into spinach. They were growing that. Now, I've heard some things that the funding has been stopped on certain research like that. I hope that that is true. So again, uh, how can I be sure that my meat comes from the United States? Well, if you want to support American grown grass fed meat and dairy, buy directly from a trusted farmer near you or look for products that bear the American Grass Fed Association logo to ensure that your food is truly a product of the United States of America. It's just crazy that we can't rely on even the labels that we're seeing, that we think things are from America when in fact, as we've just learned, that they may not be. So I you know my advice to you, if I can say advice, is do your own research before you go to the store and buy things that you think that you're feeding your family that are perfectly fine because, oh, it's trusted source, it's the United States, and what the animals are fed here and the way they're treated is great, blah 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 blah, which may not be true in any of that. So if you want to know what you're putting into your body and you want to do the best that you can in what you're putting into your body, then you want to be able to go out, do some research before you go shopping so that you know that what you are getting is the best for you and your family. Now, as I've told you before, I shop and try to buy everything that I can that is organic. Does that mean it's 100% great? No, it doesn't. But it's probably the closest that I can come to it being really great unless I grow it myself. And being in California with the soil that we have here, unfortunately, that's not always the easiest thing to do. And I don't have land personally that I can put a whole field of things on there that I would like to. When I grew up in North Carolina, that's where I was born. I used to have a whole garden with every type of vegetable that you could think of. We had so many vegetables that we gave them away because we just had too much. But that's the type of thing that I think that people really need to do. If you can grow your own vegetables, you can grow your own meat, you have enough farmland or whatever, do so. Because as things deteriorate in our country with labeling, and I call it a deterioration, it's people not being truthful to you about what you're actually eating. So, anyway, Does anybody have any questions? That's all that I really wanted to talk to you about today. I hope this has been beneficial for you. Um, because I want to bring you things that are going to help improve your life, help improve your journey on your own weight loss journey and your own health and wellness journey at the same time. So, anyway, if there aren't any further questions or anything like that, we'll go ahead and we'll close for today and keep what's going on in the world. Keep everybody in your prayers because there's a lot of trouble, as everyone knows by now, going on in Israel. And there's a dog of mine. So anyway, God bless you. We'll see you again. Take care, everybody.